Welcome to the Flex Forward podcast, where grit meets growth. With your host, Nick Espinette, bringing you stories of resilience, reinvention, and the real climb to success.
Everyone, welcome to the Flex Forward podcast. Today, we're joined by Alex Matthew. Alex is a partner at Ryman Clark. He does works with tenants and homeowners on insurance. Is that right, Alex? I'll let him give you a little more detail about that. He also has a podcast, so I'm excited to hear about his journey and what he does on a regular basis. So, Alex, welcome to the Flex Forward podcast. We're glad to have you. Can you let our listeners know a little bit about you?
Yeah, thanks for having me, Nick. I'm kind of an interesting career path. My Instagram handle is teacher, veteran, lawyer, dad. And so it happened in that order. So let's start at the end this time. I'm an attorney, as you mentioned. We just launched Ryman Clark. We're tenants' best friends. We're the largest tenant side plaintiff firm in the state of Texas already. We also represent commercial tenants, homeowners, property owners, and all sorts of litigation. And we are 7 UT law grads, strong, and we're growing. And it's been very exciting. I will say, starting a law firm, leaving the big cushy job at Big Law downtown Dallas, and starting something that's my own has been equal parts thrilling and terrifying.
Oh, I can imagine. I did a pivot. I went to school to be a physical therapist, but pivoted into commercial real estate about 10 years ago. So it's a little scary. I was in contract physical therapy at the time, so I could slowly ramp that down. I didn't have to just turn the spigot off all at once, but it's helpful. But then COVID, as some of our properties, some of the rules were, and we had a bad management company, I was having to get a lot more involved in there. So that's when my wife and I had to talk, and I stopped around late 20, stopped seeing patients and started doing this full time. So yeah, it was definitely like, what are we going to do? Because I need to be a lot more involved, and I can't have feet in both at the same time at that point.
Yeah, no, I get it. I mean, my career took lots of kind of strange twists and turns. In college, I was in the pre-law program at Austin College, but through actually my political science classes, I started to understand how important education played a role in people's life outcomes. And so I started taking these teaching classes. And sooner or later, my wife and I are both applying to Teach for America. I say wife, she was my girlfriend at the time. I proposed to her the day before, the day of finding out. I forget if it was the day before or the day of. But the point is, we didn't know whether we got in or not whenever I asked her to marry me. So that's how I could still keep the element of surprise. So we both got in. We're both teachers in San Antonio. And at that point, it was great because despite being pre-law, I'm first generation college student, and I had not actually met lawyers I wanted to be like. I really couldn't see myself in the role. I was like, do I really want to go to 3 years of something and pay all this money? Maybe I don't even want to really do it. And so Teach for America was a nice little escape for a little bit to go do that. So I was teaching third grade on the east side of San Antonio. My wife was teaching special education. And it was actually during those years in San Antonio that brought me back to the idea of going to law school.
Okay. Very neat. My wife's cousin, I think, did that. She was somewhere in Massachusetts, and she met her husband. They now live in Austin. She's a UT grad and is a PT now, but I think she did it for a year or so, but met a local guy from somewhere in Massachusetts, and they have relocated back to Texas. But very interesting. And I have a daughter that's a political science major at A&M with aspirations to go to law school. So
yeah,
some similar overlapping stories there.
So for me personally, it was a couple things. I was given a presentation by a group that had been involved in the school finance litigation. If people are unfamiliar with Texas, we're this sprawling state full of independent school districts. That's not how it happens in every state. But you might see really wildly different funding levels depending on which independent school district you happen to find yourself in. Like here in Dallas, the easy to understand difference is the difference between Dallas ISD and Highland Park ISD. They're both technically
right in the middle of
public
Dallas.
schools.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. I mean, it's a public school if you can afford to live in Highland Park, right?
Yeah.
And so,
There's
Teach
probably
America,
not a
they're
house
obviously
under $1 million.
placing you
Probably not even
exactly
multi-family.
easy. Yeah, $1 million is gonna be
Are
on
there
the
any
low end of a
multifamily?
Highland Park.
Yeah, there's probably not even apartments in the Highland Park.
There's some, but not a lot, right? And so they're just living different existences. Like it's a different reality. And so Teach America is placing you in the classrooms where the kids are not living these well-to-do lives, right? My classroom was packed. Third graders, way too many in one classroom. Old materials, and so seeing how the law could be applied in kind of a public interest kind of way, I found to be very motivating. And then I had started the process of joining the Air Force Reserve during my second year of teaching because it was important to me to get to do that in my life because my grandpa was like my hero growing up.
Awesome.
And he would tell me great stories. He was in the Air Force 26 years. I call him the Southern trifecta. He was a military man, he was a hog farmer, and he was a pastor, like a Southern Baptist, out in the country pastor, or people call you Brother Sam,
Yeah.
And he was like my hero, and he would tell me all these great stories about his trips overseas and the camaraderie he had with the people in his unit and all that. And it was like, I have to do this. And so I'm in the process of joining. They put me going to basic training in December after my second year of teaching. And so I've got this window of time where I need to figure out something to do with my hands. And I work on the governor's race in 2014. And it was the process of moving within that campaign to be a campus organizer at the University of Texas, San Antonio, that we had all these kind of legal questions come up. And I felt like I knew the law, but I was trying to fit in on the college campus and register voters and that kind of thing. Mm-hmm. So anytime I had a problem with the administration, they would be like, "Oh, he's just some punk college kid. Get out of here." But we had an attorney who was like the head legal of the campaign, and she would send a phone call or an email, and suddenly the red carpet's like, "Of course you can register voters. Would you like a clipboard? Of course you can bring the candidate to campus to speak. One works for you. Like, would you like some tables?" And it's the whole mood. Yeah. It's like, oh, I guess the whole law degree thing can make a difference.
Few initials at the end of and education. It's not just initials, but
that's right. It's both. The authority, but also knowing which levers to pull. I think that's right. And so that was when I knew, okay, I'm actually going to restart my interest in this. And it was while I was in Air Force Intel school after basic training that I'm like, I got my LSAT books, I'm studying, like in my spare time after my Intel school stuff, I'm like studying this stuff. At one point I'm like back in San Antonio, and I need to start going to classes up in Austin for my LSAT class. And then I got to go to New Jersey for this military training. I mean, I don't want to miss my LSAT class. So it turns out this LSAT company's got a class over at Rutgers.
Oh, nice.
So after my training up in McGuire Air Force Base, I have to go drive across the state of New Jersey so I can go to my LSAT class. It was a very wild time, and scary too, because it's not intuitive, right? I said I'm first generation college student, so certainly no one in my family had been to law school.
Mm-hmm.
I was just really, really lucky that I had a friend through Teach for America who was already at Yale at the time. And so if he got into Yale Law School, clearly he knows what he's doing.
Yeah.
And so he's the one going over my resume and my personal statement and all that. And
That's awesome.
that made all the difference to me. And so I've volunteered since 2016 with an organization called Service to School, which pairs veterans and people still in the military with advisors like me who will work with you on your personal statement, on your resume, on your strategy for applying to law school, because it is not intuitive. It is kind of scary.
No, I can only imagine. And I think with many walks of life, having a mentor that's already gone down that path is very helpful. And, if it's doing something athletic, doing something education or business, any of it, if you have a good mentor, and that's what a blessing, because I've watching my daughter, because we don't know the law school path, but every morning she's she's interning at a law firm here in Fort Worth this summer, living with us before she goes back for her junior year. But she's got her LSAT book, going through it while she's eating breakfast every morning. She took it blind. I think did okay, but she's like, all right, now her first goal is to study on her own and see how that does. And if she doesn't get where she wants, she's going to take a class. You
got to take it blind at the beginning so you can have a diagnostic. You got your baseline.
Yes.
The nice thing about the LSAT is it's a learnable test. It's not really based on any kind of core knowledge. Like the MCAT, like if you're trying to be a doctor, you actually have to know facts, science, like medical stuff. The LSAT is more a test of like how you think, how you approach problems, like your reading comprehension, your ability to use logic. Yeah, exactly. And so you can learn. Exactly. You can learn how the test writers. Yeah.
Like in middle school, me and her mom are like, our heads are going to blow because she just loves the logic, and she's deep into it. And we're both in the car going, what is she talking about?
Yeah.
And so she loves it. Well, awesome. What good stuff. So, in the law world, there's a lot of competition, a lot of people out there that are lawyers. What is something that sets you apart in your field that has helped you achieve what you've been able to achieve?
Yeah, so not to harp on this too much, but again, I think getting into the University of Texas School of Law from the jump was a huge differentiator. We like to say it's the best law school for 1,000 miles in any direction. And it's true. Are
starting to argue with you.
The Aggies are getting close. They're nipping at our heels. That has been actually
22 and UT was 19 or 20. I don't remember what I saw. Something.
It's always up there, like 14, 15, 16, somewhere in there. And then, you're right. A&M is 22. It's already the number 2 law school in the state. And it's been an incredible meteoric rise, unlike anything else in the country. So a lot of credit to Texas A&M for buying, Texas Wesleyan?
Wesleyan, yeah.
Yeah, and then I think it's the Aggie Network. The Aggie Network just poured in resources and have been dedicated to this. And so I say best law school for 1,000 miles in any direction, and we're hanging on, but who knows for how long.
And my daughter's looking at both UT and we're an Aggie family. I'm A&M. My 2 daughters go there. My wife's got her master's from there. But I'm like, hey, wherever you can get in that works best, and the finances work is.
Well, and for me, it was both the finances and the fact that I wanted to live in Texas, right? Mm-hmm. So I had my mentor. His name is Theodore Rostow. He was at Yale, and he was telling me that the law world is very, I guess, superficial when it comes to like rankings, and they're kind of judgy in that way. And so his advice to me was to apply to UT, but also to apply to the other top 20 law schools, and to use acceptance letters from those schools to leverage a greater scholarship award from the school I actually wanted to go to. And I'll tell you though, when I got into an Ivy League law school and then was on the wait list for Harvard, I was just, being a small town kid from Sherman, first generation, that was really tempting, right? Yeah. When Cornell was like, come see the campus. We'll give you a free trip to Ithaca. I'll go see Ithaca for free, sure. I mean, it was a beautiful campus. It kind of reminded me of like an American Hogwarts almost, like the castles and stuff. It was just beautiful. But like I always think back to that kind of fork in the road, and I am so glad I went to UT. One, because I think the rankings don't actually matter all that much, and they're very close, and sometimes they go back and forth. But at the big law firms in Texas, most of the hiring partners went to UT. The federal judge I worked for 2 years right after I graduated only hired UT law clerks. And so I think there's just been a tremendous amount of support that came through that. I think the other thing is being at the law school is doing well. And especially in that first year, I think that's not adequately described to people outside of the law world, is that there is the first year of grades is like the common yardstick that applies to every law school throughout the country. And that's how these firms are able to kind of create their pecking order, or assess the candidates. And the job that you get after your first full year of grades is your second summer. And the second summer, assuming you don't mess it up by like hitting on the boss's wife or getting blackout drunk or doing something so embarrassing that you end up on this website called Above the Law.
Oh no.
it's like a gossip rag, but for the
Yeah.
like the law world. As long as you don't do something like that, that's usually the job that's waiting for you after you graduate and pass the bar. And so a lot of pressure is put on these law students in the first full year of classes. And like some people buckle under that pressure. It's just so overwhelming and stressful for them.
Sure.
I think one of the things that helped me do well in that first year and to make law review, which is its own thing I can tell you about, was the fact that I got myself into this like almost Zen-like mental headspace, which is I could be last in my class and I'll be fine. I have people who love me. My worth is not dictated by my class ranking. Someone has to be at the bottom of the class. That's how numbers work. When I was at Austin College undergrad, I was in the Leadership Institute, and we used West Point as an example of how people can lose their sense of self-worth and their bearings by comparing themselves to others. Because if you're at West Point, kind of necessarily, you were like hometown hero. You were like the cream of the crop, right? What is that Men in Black line? The best of the best of the best, sir.
Yeah.
But the problem is at West Point, only like 10% or 15%, or whatever it is, can be,
or ever how many are
like that's how numbers work. You can only a percentage of the best of the best of the best can be the best of the best of the best. Yeah. And so if you're in the bottom 10% of West Point and you've been in the top 10% of everything your whole life, it's like a very jarring experience. And you're like, am I a loser? It's like, no, of course. Yeah. You're just at a place where everybody's great.
Yeah, you're competing with the elite. So you're still in the top 2% of whatever you're doing, or
exactly
whatever the number is.
Exactly.
The world.
No one at West Point is a failure.
No, for sure.
That's why you're at West Point.
Very, very, very interesting. Well, it's kind of like looking at, the NFL. There's star high school football players. A few of them make it to Division I college, and then only a small number of those. That's people that are putting all their hope that their kid's going to be an NFL. So I'm like, that's a very small number that make it in, and it's a short-lived career for a lot of those guys. You're looking at a 2 to 5 year window that you're making money if you get there. So it's it's still just get to a D or even a D2 school. You're not a bad athlete, but there's just a lot of good ones out there.
And so the advice I give is it feels very counterintuitive in the sense that I'm like, don't do what your classmates are doing and spend all day and all night at the library. Like, treat it like a job. Be serious about it. But like after your 8 hours of the day or 10 at the most, right? Like clock out. Like that's like what people do where it's an actual job. Like if you burn yourself at both ends, you're going to be worn out. Like you're going to be sick.
Yeah, that's very
people
wise.
stop eating well. They stop going to church, or they stop spending time with their family. They stop working out. Like all the things that they used to do to the kind of like keep themselves balanced and nourished and kind of well adjusted, like flies out the window. And then they're surprised when the finals finally roll around and they're just like crashing.
Well, those things are so important, that rest or downtime, family time, spiritual time, exercise, whatever it is that you need. It's so important to make sure it's worked in. And I've talked to my middle daughters more about just really getting into focusing on one thing. I'm like, no, you got to spread yourself, like take some time out and take some time out to sit and do nothing, or maybe read a book, and it doesn't have to be an education book. Read a fun book, fiction books. Okay. You don't necessarily want to read
whatever it is that your thing just helps you disconnect and kind of like shut the brain off. Cause the brain's a muscle like anything else.
Sure.
Like, if you were to lift arms every day of the week and never give it rest, that's actually not good for your arms. There has to be a rest period where the body kind of like takes adjust and rebuilds and recovers. Yeah, that recovery is just as important to the whole process as anything else. And so before every exam, I'd go get a massage, or I'd go to the movies. People were like freaking out. And I think that toxic stress actually makes your brain perform less well, right? It's not operating at full horsepower. It's not going off
For
on all
sure. I
cylinders.
saw a lot of that when I was in PT school. There were some people that just would, like you said, from time class let out to middle of the night to the next morning, they were just always and never went and let loose a little bit. It's like you got to have a little bit of fun. It comes a point where you don't want to, can't be doing it every night, but you got to balance it out
Yeah.
with exercise, with social time with friends, and it's so important to do that stuff. So if someone's listening and wants to learn how to maybe get better at something that they're doing, either personally or physically, do you have any tips or suggestions, things that you've found success with?
Yeah, nothing highly original, but I found the book Atomic Habits
Yeah,
to be a really, really good resource on that. Really practical advice on how to develop, right? Atomic, not in the sense of like explosive and huge, but atomic as in tiny, like an atom. These little things that you can implement are the things that add up over time, right? Habit stacks, doing one activity whenever you're doing another and combining them. The kind of practical advice in that book is really, really good and something I probably should revisit with some
I was thinking
regularity.
I think it's on the shelves over there. I was trying to see if I could spot it. I know it's somewhere. It might be behind me, but I've read it. My wife really loves it. So that's an awesome book. So what's one of the biggest challenges you've had to overcome in your career path, or your even journey, not necessarily as a lawyer, but maybe as a teacher or, in the Air Force?
Yeah, I think biggest challenge for me, and it's one I see a lot within the veteran community as a whole, is I think self-selecting out. We tell ourselves a story that, this opportunity or this school or this type of job is for other people who are better than me, people who are more credentialed or come from a more connected family. And I think that we can really sell ourselves short that way. So I have had really key people in my life who have poured into me and given advice, but also encouragement in the right moment to help me pursue things.
Nice.
And I think those were the challenges that if I had not had those particular helpers step in those moments, I don't know that I would have overcome them. And so those are my challenges, but also how they were overcome. It was not like anything special or inherent within me alone, but just because I've had so many people who have cared for me.
I think that focuses back to relationships, building relationships with people, not to use them, but you probably help them out a lot too. But I think relationships are so important over transactions in anything we're doing. So, building those and putting people first are kind of the golden rule of treating others how you want to be treated. Really ends up.
Yeah, the golden
and
rule,
you
right?
benefit
It's
too,
a
yeah.
sense of reciprocity. So
Mhm.
even if, I can never, Theodore Rostow, right? The guy who helped me through my law school applications, I might never be able to repay him for the way he changed the trajectory of my life. But I recognize that it was huge. And so I have this deep sense of like duty to do
To
the
help
same.
somebody
And so,
else, not necessarily.
and that's why for the last decade, I've been volunteering with Service to School. If anybody reaches out to me and says, "Hey, I could really use your help looking at my personal statement, my resume, or just to chat with me about my career," uh, I've never said no to any of those requests.
That's
Like
awesome.
I'm
I
a
know
busy
that's
person, but I will make time because I know how important that was to me.
there's a fellow I work out with. He's in the Air Force Reserve, and he did. It took him a while to find a job, but there are a lot of other. We part of a workout group, and there are other veterans that helped him build his resume just to make it, just to know how to, they've already done the journey. So those guys, it wasn't a formal thing, but within our workout group, he got a lot of help, and he
Well, and
actually
some of
left.
that is translation. Uh, the veterans in particular, like I feel like they have a jargon and they have these phrases and these terms. It's like it's its own subculture, right? And
Hmm.
so that's one of the first things I have to do whenever I get a new service to school mentee is like a military to civilian translation service. Because I mean, even from branch to branch, there's stuff that doesn't translate. Like if I were to tell someone in the Army that I was a red rope during my airman leadership program, they have no idea what that means.
Yeah. Just have your own term words all the way through it.
Yeah. And so it's just a matter of taking like what are some actually very impressive things people end up doing in the service, but helping people understand why they're impressive.
And then phrasing it where the civilian's going to understand it.
Exactly.
Awesome. John, thank you so much. As we're wrapping up the interview, you have any exciting plans or initiatives in the next 6 to 12 months?
Well, just continuing to build out this new law firm. The startup energy is exciting. I am really excited to see how that goes. Next 6 to 12 months, I guess, also is, you mentioned I have a podcast. We've been about to celebrate a full year of episodes. It's called the Mission Texas Podcast. It's kind of like a Mission Impossible, but kind of our view on state of political affairs and how really important changes are going to happen in 2030 because of just the enormous amount of population growth in the state of Texas. Whenever we get a new census in 2030, there's going to be a lot of new power coming to the state of Texas, new congressional districts.
Yeah, we should gain a lot, right? I mean, within
4 to 5 is the estimate.
Wow,
which is a huge amount.
Yeah, we're already one of the bigger, right?
Yeah, we're like the second biggest.
California. Oh, second.
Yeah,
okay.
Right after California. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I knew we're up in the top there. Well, great stuff, and thank you for your service on that. Thank you for your service in the Air Force. So, thank you so much for joining us today. I had a lot of thank yous there and sharing tips and insights with our listeners. If people want to connect with you, learn more about you, learn more about the service to school, set up, what's the best way for them to connect?
Sure. Reach out to me directly on Instagram. I'm at teacher veteran lawyer dad. You can shoot me an email. I'm aclark@rymanclark.com. And, again, if you want advice, if you want to just have a quick Zoom chat with me, grab coffee, whatever, I've yet to tell somebody no. So shoot your shot.
Yeah. Any guys that are listening or girls that may need benefit, reach out. I think it'd be a great resource, and it sounds like a great help to you. Hey, John, thank you so much. Everyone, thanks for listening. Be sure to like and share this episode.
Thanks for listening to the Flex Forward podcast. If you've got grit, growth, and a great story, visit flexforwardpodcast.com/guest to apply and join us on the show.